Honored guests, faculty, friends, parents, classmates, welcome and congratulations to us all. Two relatively recent events in my life have given me a sort of offbeat angle from which to approach this speech. One of them was my participation in last year's On Golden Pond, FHS's version of the play about a spirited couple growing old, and the other, my grandfather's 80th birthday this year. The play gave me the chance to try and adopt the point of view and disposition of an older person, and the birthday allowed me just one of numerous chances to hear secondhand about what it's like being one of the older set. From relatives' recollections at the birthday celebration and throughout my life, I've had chances to be vicariously present at the old-fashioned social and school events that built class feeling. I'd like now to be about 60 years premature and look back on our high school experiences as if they were memories of an entire lifetime. In a figurative sense, I want to transform myself into the seasoned old sage and have each and every one of you as my grandchildren sitting on my lap, listening in awe to me reminisce in my incredibly wise way about the good old days in 1988 at Frederick High School. It had not only the distinction of providing hundreds of young scholars with a quality education, but could also boast of having in its principal, Dr. Kevin Kastner, I think one of the tallest men in the Frederick County educational system. Yes, sirree. One of the elements about the school I remember most vividly was the whole crazy deal with the earth-shattering school spirit. Now, I don't know what you young folks pass for a class enthusiasm these days, but back then we had somehow convinced ourselves that we, the mighty class of 1988, were the best collection of upstarts ever to barge in and out of the doors at Frederick High. It may surprise the kids of today that way back then, Baltimore actually still had in its grasp the last vestiges of a Major League Baseball team. Pitiful though it was. And we, the 1988 senior class of FHS, were just about ready to unleash ourselves upon the world and post-Reagan America. It seems like just yesterday, as indeed it is since this entire speech is hallucination anyway, that we were all rip-roaring to go swooping down on our careers, colleges, and military occupations like hungry wolves down on a flock of sheep. Throughout high school, our school spirit had been just as daring and adventurous. One particularly self-assured, confident, and pro-Frederick High group I remember was the academic team. Now, that name may not summon up too much of an image of ruthlessness or spirit in one's mind, but that contrast was all part of the impact. Just as an example, I remember late in the 1988 competition season, the team was getting pumped up for a grudge match against a rival school in the county, and tried to do so by picking out and privately ridiculing embarrassing physical features in the appearances of the rival team's members, and then going straight for the jugular. The nasty names were appropriate, they worked, and actually helped us to build up confidence and bring home a victory for Frederick High. Now, this particular event had about as much an element of revenge in it as it had of school spirit, but that was okay. There was no way we were going to let them trounce our school. We also took great pleasure in screaming our lungs out at pep rallies, a somewhat immature practice I don't think I could withstand much of at my age, but we cheered our boys on at contests like the annual homecoming game we played against our crosstown rivals, what's their name? In this and many events, we pursued our school's glory, sometimes at the expense of our own or others' dignity. One image that will be indelibly imprinted into my mind is the one featuring some of our glorious teaching staff boogieing away on the gymnasium floor. I believe the school was holding one of its famous eardrum-shattering pep rallies at the time, and the premise was some kind of dance contest among the classes, represented by those poor happy-go-lucky teaching and dancing machines who didn't have anything better to do and were seeming themselves breathless on the gym floor. The athletic spirit naturally followed over into the exploits of our peerless drama department, which tiptoed the cutting edge of avant-garde theater, as well as the activities of the government clubs, art, music, graphic arts, and all those other departments I'm afraid I'm too decrepit now to rightly remember. As I recall, as we approached the big graduation day, as it was called back then, we promised ourselves that we'd continue through life with the same adventurous, oh, what the heck attitude. We planned to apply this attitude toward genuine excellence in all our pursuits. We emphasized this concept in our high school academic, athletic, artistic, political, and vocational endeavors. And as for myself, for the last 60 years or so since high school, I've tried to live by the spirited, ambitious Frederick High outlook. As a man named Charles Dickens once wrote, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times." Now, I don't seem to remember his picture in the yearbook, but for my part, all I seem to remember now are the good times. And you know, the high school experience was more than just the unique events of Frederick High, like pep rallies and academic and athletic tournaments. What subtly but truly defined the character and spirit of the school were everyday sights and activities. I'm not sure that I paid absolute attention at each assembly, or even listened to the morning announcements every day, or checked the rolling digital cafeteria sign each time it appeared. But now, after 60 years of remembrances, these seemingly mundane things are so important as a part of the whole. And kiddies, it's those little things that add flavor and life and shape whatever goodwill you'll have in later life. I find that I miss the class banners and posters, and I even miss eating lunch, though the aftertaste still lingers in my mouth after 60 years. You see, lunch was not terribly significant in history, or even in my day, but it was one of the places where I forged friendships and shared in some forms of humor. I miss the frequent arguments over gun control in national and global affairs, and I even miss disagreeing with the entire AP English class, but that's okay. The daily things unique to the diversity of Frederick High now seem so important to me. And folks, that's how I plan to tell my grandchildren about the good old days at Frederick High. I'll relate it with one part respect, one part nostalgia, one tiny little part ridicule, and one sizable part gladness. I hope to hear from you all on this subject about 60 years from now. The years will go by quickly. I hope we all make it. Thank you.